everybody. So she was a part of a choir that was a community choir that used to go around singing and stuff.
Because that was the thing to do.
And they needed a place to rehearse. So some of their friends got together with some of my musician friends, and then they knew I had the key to let them in. So all of a sudden they come and do a rehearsal at my space, and I just unlock the door, and then a whole crew of people come in with her little choir. And I saw it in, that was the first time we really met, but she looked super young.
Probably looked, I was about to say 12.
Yeah, so I wasn't fooling with that, you know what I'm saying? At that point, I had a full beard.
Yep.
And we were the same age.
Yep.
But we didn't really realize that at the time.
And then we saw one another.
And all of your friend girls was trying to flirt with me too.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
But I ain't roll like that because I was mature.
Whatever. She wanted this. And we bumped into each other later on.
At the mall.
Okay.
Yep, we saw one another at the mall. That's when I saw you like hanging with like a bunch of other people, but I thought you were mentoring them because again, you looked older.
No, I was standing at the mall like talking about people while they was walking by. So we were people watching. So we ended up at a low-house skating rink in Spanish Lake, Hazelwood, and then saw her again. She was there, and then we finally got a chance to talk and found out that we were the same age. And we talked for like hours and hours and hours.
Whatever we talked about, it sealed the deal.
Because she rode home with me that night, you know what I'm saying?
We talked like another 2 hours in front of my house.
Back then, I was writing plays. And then at that time, I decided to include her in a play that we did at Harris-Stowe State College in St. Louis. Early on, we were connected by music, acting,
dancing. We had a lot in common.
We ended up going to proms together. She was at a different school than I was.
Yep.
She was
do you want to tell them about the time how you followed me home?
So I was a little bit stalky because I didn't trust her genuine goodness.
Told y'all I was mature.
And I didn't trust her because I didn't trust nobody at that time. So I decided to get out of school early one time, and then I went and saw her school, and I was looking at her like, who's she talking to? Who that dude she with? Because if it was starting to get serious, and so if I was going to be serious with somebody, it had to be somebody I can trust. But then, come to find out, she was actually being honest, and she was a good, clean girl. You know what I mean? And,
Wholesome.
We started dating. Things get serious. At that time, I was at Hazelwood East High School, and she was at Rittner.
Rittner High School.
We was fooling around stuff like that in high school. So next thing you know, she ended up pregnant. And so she was pregnant before we
wasn't
graduated.
that wholesome.
You was. Hey, anyway. You spend all day, every day with each other. That's what happened. She was pregnant beforehand, before we got out. And I will say,
I went to prom pregnant.
Yep.
So both proms.
We decided, we were already talking about marriage and stuff like that prior to knowing that she was pregnant. But then once that happened, we were just kind of like, what's going to happen next? So we told her dad and mom, and he
did not go well. He got up, left the house for hours.
Yeah, but then he came back and he had a conversation with me. He didn't kill me. And neither your dad nor your mom shamed me, but they welcomed me in, and then my family was the same. And I will even say, even our pastor at that time, he didn't shame us or anything else like that. So they supported us. We had a lot of support from our family. We ended up having a conversation, and it was just like, so I think I see in you everything that I want in a wife for the rest of my life. Do you see all that you want in a husband in me? And I was like, do you want to get married?
And we were like, yeah.
And so we were sitting under a gazebo in St. Charles, Missouri, in the apartments that I used to stay in at that time.
Very romantic.
Hey, it was little ducks walking around. It was a little pond. And so that's how I proposed. It wasn't fancy. I didn't get down on one knee, but I did ask her. And I was serious about it. And we were like, yeah, let's do it. So then 3 months later, we got married.
Yeah,
so,
September 5th. The family rallied behind us. We had a lot of support. My mom's a beautician, so all of her clientele cooked the food. And it was some of the best. I mean, for years, people were talking about that food.
Yeah, the venue was taken care of because of the church, Solomon's Temple. They let us have it there. Bishop officiated the wedding. They mentored us.
I found a $3,000 dress for $400.
Yep, and then I believe my mom kicked in and helped us out with the rings. And so we ended up having rings for about $500. We got both our rings.
Yeah, and listen, those rings lasted literally 24 years. Yeah.
Yeah, and we still got them. My dad was the DJ. And then our siblings and our friends jumped behind us, and they was all part of the bridal party, all that stuff. We had some of the greatest singers in St. Louis. So it was a really beautiful ceremony. We had a community center where we had the reception.
And most importantly, we had some Lee's chicken and sweet tea.
Which was really goofy. But if you from St. Louis, you know what we talking about. That sweet tea was everything. So we did all of that. The wedding probably didn't cost no more than $2,000.
Yeah.
and we still married after 25 years. So for all you people out there going broke, trying to get a wedding done, you ain't got to do it. You can make it. You can be happy. If I was smarter, I'd have taken half of what we spent on that wedding and put it in my little savings since I didn't have none. And then after that, December the 5th, Brandon was born. Joe her dad, drove us to the hospital. So she had the baby. I was working at UPS at that time, and so it was UPS.
We had our little family.
Yeah.
It was just the three of us.
She was trying to go through college, but then she had to drop out.
Yeah, I had to drop out, but I finished.
She did.
Years later, but I finished.
Yep.
But yeah, it was just the three of us, and we got our first apartment.
In the hood.
It was definitely in the hood.
Yeah, it was in the hood in St. Louis, so it's hood. We didn't have like central air and stuff like that. We actually had like a AC unit in the window that used to spit water on our heads above the bed.
Well, to be fair, it was a shotgun apartment. So if you had the AC unit, let's just say at the front of the apartment, I mean, the air would just carry on all the way through the apartment.
So we lived through that, but what I will say is, even though we were struggling financially at that time, we were learning how to make it work, learning how to be grateful for what we did have instead of complaining about what we didn't.
We had our first Christmas in that apartment.
And what was crazy is Brandon had everything.
Yes, Brandon probably didn't have a need outside of Pampers for like his first 2 years.
Yeah, literally, his little baby shower provided him for everything he needed. Clothes, family supported, friends supported, people came and rallied around him. But then what was crazy was about a year later, we were pregnant again, and then Brianna came out, and so we had Bree again. Both of them were born in St. Louis, Missouri, Barnes Jewish Hospital on Kings Highway. In the city. She had everything she needed.
Yeah.
Everything was provided. Baby shower was crazy. We always had support, family and friends. I don't know how these people be doing it nowadays without people to support them.
Oh man.
Rallying around them, or a church family.
People.
Yeah, that was the key to everything. We always had deep roots in our community, in our church, and for our family, the religion of my family is family. You know what I mean? So we all believe in God. We love Jesus, all that stuff. But what you're going to find with my family is kind of that blood is sticking in the water type thing. And so they always going to rally behind you. They're going to support you. So then we moved to Clarence Street in St. Louis.
That was great. That was actually really nice house. I feel like that's where we were like getting our groove in life.
And so that was kind of like the first like year and a half was learning how to parent, learning how to be responsible adults. She was a good pick, so I knew what I was doing. I did something right in those years. So let me tell y'all something. You find you a good, clean girl. You find you a Bible-believing, wholesome, Jesus-loving woman. And that'll get you as a good start. And I will say this, at the very beginning, Bishop Holloway, he did our premarital, counseling. We had a couple of sessions with him. And one of the things Bishop Holloway always said was, if you're going through trouble, pray. If you want to keep your family together, pray. Family that pray together, stay together. And so no matter what you're doing, you always need to keep God in your life. Keep him in the middle. And so that was Bishop Holloway.
Yeah, that anchored us for a very long time.
It was also the encouragement that Joseph Poche, Alzheimer, gave us as well. He said, make sure you keep God in your life. And that was really big from him as well. So we had people around us that made sure that we stayed Christ-centered, but to actually go from just having that as head knowledge to actually being in practice and a reality for our lives was a whole different thing. What I will say too is we also had like people who stepped into our lives randomly from the church who would give us encouragement, or they would give us like what I would call a prophetic word, to where it was like, hey, y'all need to do this way financially, or do this way. And when we listened, it was amazing. But
I guess we always had a community around us between our family and church friends, and then just people along the way. God really did surround us with some really good people who genuinely loved us.
So Brittany comes around in 2001. So 98, 2000, 2001, we had baby. So now we got the third one.
And Brittany was a high-risk pregnancy because she was a twin. And so I lost the other twin very early on. So that whole pregnancy, I think I was on bed rest at 6 months.
Yeah, and by then we had moved to Texas. And so now we're living in Fort Worth, Texas. And so Brittany was born in Texas. But simultaneously, Bree was in the hospital because she was getting her tonsils removed.
Tonsils and adenoids.
So you can imagine how stressful that time was.
And that kicked me into labor.
Yeah, so all that was going on at the same time. But then Brittany finally, she gets born in Texas. And Bree's okay. She gets her tonsils done. For a minute, though, it was really scary because we didn't know if she was going to make it. But then now you got these three.
You got to talk about your grandmother.
And so that's what I was about to say. We have to tell them how we got to the grandma house. Because Brittany now, she's born. Bree's okay. We're in Texas.
She may be 1.5.
Yeah. And so we go back to visit family in St. Louis, and Grandma Reed, she had these little figurines and little glass things all over the tables on her house in St. Louis. And so we went back to visit Grandma Reed, and Brittany kept moving them things, and Grandma Reed had told her to stop, and she ain't listening.
She was just so patient. She was like, no. And Brittany looked up at her.
She just reaches and she touches it again. Y'all know how kids do. Grandma Reed took a pen and she looked at her and she got them big old Reed eyeballs and she looked at her and she said,
no.
She barely touched her. Pop. But it was that face and that
Brittany
tone.
looked up and then she looked at us.
And then she put it down and she stopped. And it just taught us, the rod of correction.
Yep.
So in a 3-year period of time, we had moved to 3 different cities. We stayed in Indianapolis, Indiana, in between time.
I think.
Went from St. Louis to Indianapolis to Fort Worth with 3 kids.
Yeah.
And
had a miscarriage, and then after Brittany's birth, I had a major surgery. I had a total hysterectomy.
Yep. At the same time.
Yeah.
And so, I did get to care for you during that time. Taking care of her while she was on bed rest and working. Full-time job plus another job plus she started working a job, so we were hustling, man. Them first years of parenting and marriage were rough to say the least.
There was no time to figure us out.
No.
I mean, it was all about the kids.
That didn't happen until about 2004.
Yeah.
And then we started figuring out how to not just be roommates, and I think survival mode for so long kept us in that rut. And so if you want to know more details about the roommate lifestyle and how we got out, you can just get that book, you know what I'm saying? Because it's in there, not just
it's
roommates.
on Amazon.
It surely is, and you can go get it. But yeah, so those were the beginnings. That's how we met.
Yeah.
And the stuff we used to do, I think that kept us together early on. We always were outgoing.
Yeah.
So we went out to eat. We went to art museums.
Yeah.
We did concerts. We sung.
Regardless if we had a car.
Yeah.
We took the bus.
Yep.
We went to parks a lot. The library with the kids.
Did the same
lot.
thing. Yep. Like almost, it was an adventure, like from the beginning. So even when times were tough and we talked about all kind of some of the dark spots, what we were doing that entire time was actively being involved in culture, community, like having fun. But we weren't just like homebodies, just sitting there all the time looking at the TV. That would drive us nuts. And so I think that was one of the things that kept us going, is that no matter what we were going through, even with the kids, we always were having fun or trying to give them an experience of like enjoying either nature, education, music, sports. There was always something that we were doing together as a family, and that never stopped. So now when we see our kids now at year 25, and they've done everything from, sports to dance to theater, playing instruments, traveling the world, like all that stuff is ingrained in them, and it was in them from the very beginning. Those were the things that they saw. Those are the things that they're living. It's just hopefully now they don't have to go through, blazing a trail for marriage and what health looks like, what wealth looks like, because we've already kind of laid that foundation for them. So they just get to build off of what they learned early on.